Hi, this is TJR, and this is going to be my reaction to the first 4 episodes of Twin Peaks: The Return. As I finish up episode 4, I realize just how much I have missed these characters. I knew that going in, that since David Lynch would be directing all 18 episodes, that fans of Lynch would be delighted, and this includes me. But I also knew that some fans who love Twin Peaks, but not necessarily David Lynch, would be frustrated, just like they were with Fire Walk With Me. Now, I don't know if I should say that some fans of Twin Peaks like the more Mark Frost side of the show, or the less David Lynch side of the show. But I have discovered from listening to fan reactions that they get frustrated with Lynch's more puzzling journeys into surrealism and absurdity. But Lynch and Frost have written all these episodes together, and I think that those fans frustrated with Lynch will be much happier when they get to episode 4, where we really get a good chance to catch up with a lot of the familiar characters that we remember. Plus, we get a lot of the humor and quirk of the original series as well. This includes a confused Dale Cooper winning the slot machines in Vegas, and Lucy's hysterical aversion to cell phones. Best of all is the appearance of Michael Cera as Wally Brando, the son of Deputy Andy and Lucy Moran. I have checked IMDb, and I am sorry to hear that Wally Brando will only be in the 1 episode. That's a shame because I really love this new character. In fact, I think we could get a whole TV series of just Andy and Lucy and Wally. But I digress. Now, don't get me wrong, the absurdist, quirky comedy is there in the early episodes also, but you really get a healthy dose of it in episode 4. So if you were frustrated at first, please be patient, you will be rewarded. And this is a good thing because the first 3 episodes are mostly a dark and disturbing ride, and I was happy to take that ride, but it was nice to get some relief in episode 4. In fact, the series as a whole is also a family reunion of sorts for fans of Lynch's films as well, since we also get a lot of performances from actors who have appeared in other Lynch movies like Naomi Watts, Robert Forrester, and Patrick Fischler, to name a few. I also suspect that there are some Lynch fans that are also frustrated, wondering, come on, why isn't the story moving faster? Come on, let's get on with it. In these first 4 episodes, a lot of foundation is being set up, and Lynch and Frost are taking their time telling this story. David Lynch has stated in interviews that one of his favorite filmmakers is Stanley Kubrick, and if you've ever watched 2001: A Space Odyssey, you will realize that he is the master of telling the story slowly. With all this said, I now just want to make some random observations. As I watch this new series, one of the first things that strikes me is the use of digital effects. One very noticeable thing about David Lynch's style of filmmaking is that even though he has access to digital technology, he by and large has used old school special effects. A lot of the effects techniques that he has used in his films have been in use since the very early days of movie making, and could have been as easy to create back in the 1930s as in today's modern age of filmmaking. At one point, David Lynch almost bowed out of directing the series when Showtime seemed unwilling to put up enough money to do the special effects that he wanted in the series. Seeing just these 4 episodes, I can now see why. In episode 3, Major Garland Briggs' head appears as just a spectral floating head, an image, and I am struck by just how much this scene reminds me of the opening of David Lynch's first film, Eraserhead. Is he just paying homage to that film, or could Eraserhead and Twin Peaks be somehow tied in with each other? With every major motion picture studio trying to cash in on the success of Marvel Studios, could this be the beginning of the David Lynch extended universe? Probably not. And I'd better not get my hopes up too high for that one, but it was one of the funnier thoughts that crossed my mind. Now, so far, with the exception of the very first episode, we have gotten a different band closing out each episode. I personally love this. It reminds me of how the Buffy the Vampire series would give a lot of breaks to promising bands by featuring them in each episode. every time they featured the local club hangout from the series. And I love that Twin Peaks is doing this. And I have really loved what I've heard of the featured bands on Twin Peaks so far. And if this continues, I imagine and hope that we might close out the entire series with Julie Cruz. If you have been paying attention to the ending credits, you will notice that in the first 3 episodes, there has been a dedication to cast members who have since passed away. And this does add a bittersweet note to the series. Both Catherine Coulson, the log lady, and Miguel Ferrer, who plays Agent Rosenfeld, passed away after shooting, and both died of cancer. Watching their performances, it's clear to me that both are not feeling well, but they just both hang on and give it their all like troopers. So now, I'm going to just ask a few of the questions that are going through my head. I'm sure you have your own, and this series certainly does bring up a lot of questions, but these are the questions that are burning in my mind the most. So episode 1, why does Cooper need to remember 430 and Richard and Linda? And also, what is Jacoby doing with the shovels, and how does all of this tie in? In episode 2, who or what is the coal black statue man sitting in the jail whose head just floats away? How does the bad, or perhaps I should say the badass Dale Cooper, know the school principal's wife? And how does all this fit in with the murders that the school principal is accused of? In episode 3, Cooper is transported to a room where time seems to glitch and skip, kind of like a broken record. In this room is an Asian woman whose eyes are sewed shut. I kept wondering, is this woman supposed to be Josie? Joan Chen isn't in the cast, but then this wouldn't be the first time that a major character from the series was recasted. Will we ever find out what happened to her after season 2, after she was swallowed up into a doorknob? And do you realize just how strange that last line must sound to someone who has never seen this show? Oh, and by the way, I didn't notice this at first, but after the Asian woman whose eyes are sewn shut drifts off into space and Cooper goes back into the floating room, there's another woman there. And my understanding is that this woman is none other than Ronit Pulaski. It will be interesting to see how this all fits in, if it does. Finally, in episode 4, the one-armed man says that the third Cooper, or Doug E., was manufactured for a purpose. But who manufactured him? Lastly, at the very end of episode 4, when Gordon Cole meets the bad Cooper, he knows something isn't right, and he tells Albert that they need to get a certain person to take a look at him. Albert agrees and says, I know where she drinks. Who are they talking about? Who has that emotional connection that would be able to tell if this is the right Cooper or not? I want to say Annie. Heather Graham is not credited on this new series in IMDb, but that doesn't mean she won't show up. If it's not her, then the only other person I can think of that would have a similar emotional connection would be Audrey. And Sherilyn Fenn is listed in the cast credits. I guess we'll know more soon enough. You might say it's hard to make any real judgment call as yet, but so far, I am on board with this series. You know, during the original series run, many critics suspected that the show's creators had no idea where anything was going, that they were just simply making it up as they went. During the second season, though, it was proved that they were wrong. The series does make sense if you stick it out to the end of season 2 and into Fire Walk With Me. Is every question answered? No. But it does make sense. I believe the same thing will happen with this series as well. David Lynch hasn't directed anything since Inland Empire in 2006, so it is great to finally be able to have this wealth of footage from him. As I watch this series, I also have to admit that I feel a certain amount of bittersweetness. I want very much to be wrong about what I'm about to say, but my personal feeling is that this series is the last thing as far as any kind of film footage that we will ever get from David Lynch again. I hope I'm not right about this. So, what are your thoughts? What burning questions do you have? I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Thanks so much for watching, and looking forward to episode 5 and beyond, and let's see where all this goes. This is TJR. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe to the channel.